What I learned and experienced there. My experiences began as soon as I arrived in the Twin Cities. At the airport car rental check-in, people were being told that it would be a 60 to 90-minute wait for a vehicle to be assigned to them, even with a registration. I asked the agent who checked me in what was causing the delay. He literally said, "This is Minnesota." And then he explained that employees were not showing, well, that's a phrase we use. This is Minnesota. You'll hear. And then he explained that employees were not showing up for work. So all of the car rental agencies were short-staffed. My sister later told me that it was because ICE was at the airport. The comment, "This is Minnesota," was just one of the double entendre that have come into being as ICE surged and descended on the Twin Cities during what turned into one of the colder January weeks ever in my lifetime. That evening, at my sister's, we ate our dinner while watching an indivisible town hall with a political candidate for one of the state's federal offices. It included questions about the crises in and around the Twin Cities. Wednesday was a day of rest for me, but I did go to a congregational dinner at Unity Church, UU, in St. Paul. In addition to seeing beloved colleagues who had also traveled from out of state, I saw a high school friend, the sister of one of my classmates. Being embraced by this and other UU communities during our time in town was a blessing. On that January 22nd, Thursday morning, the day-long multi-faith anti-racism change and healing march program began early. In particular, I was looking forward to connecting with a lifelong friend who'd lived next door to me in the neighborhood I grew up in. She serves as the cantor at a Reformed Jewish congregation in Brooklyn, New York. That happened during the breakfast hour. Programming began in the Westminster Presbyterian Church sanctuary with song, "We Will Get There Together," followed by a timely poem by Junauda Juanita Petrus, the author of the book that I shared earlier. Then Mohican tribal leader Jim Bear Jenkins grounded us in the indigenous history of where we had come together. These are ancestral lands of the Dakota people, Bedote or Medote, the confluence of the Minnesota and Mississippi rivers, the Minnesota Wakpa and the Mississippi, respectively, is considered the birthplace of creation, the center of the earth within this tradition. It has spiritual significance to the Dakota. That place is near the airport. It is very near where Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Detention Center is. My sister has been serving as an immigration court observer out there. This is where the first Catholic Church was established in Minnesota. It is also the site of historic Fort Snelling, where, in the midst of the American Civil War, the fort served as a concentration camp for Dakota women and children during the Dakota Uprising of 1862-63. We learned from event organizers that they had pulled everything together in just 1 week. In Minnesota, the number of ICE agents is 5 times that who were in Chicago. They are abducting Native Americans. There is community destruction resulting from this invasion. Because neighbors are turning out to observe and be with each other, they are building shared understanding even though the difficulty is not erased. Children are afraid. Together, we lend each other our courage. I'll come back to these ideas when I share how what is happening in Minneapolis matters to all of us. I had opted in for the action requiring a ticket when I checked in at 8 o'clock in the morning. In the meantime, the organizers were constantly assessing the risks and adjusting to keep everyone as safe as possible. One of those adjustments was that the buses would not be going to the Whipple building. Instead, they went to the Powderhorn Park neighborhood in South Minneapolis, where Renee Good had been murdered. We went to be observers for a short period of time, to walk around with a buddy and be a calm, friendly, polite, neighborly presence. The person who I walked with lives in that neighborhood, as does their sibling, one of our UUA staff. We didn't encounter any disturbances, but my buddy did check their phone and noted that just a mile away, someone had been arrested during the time we were out walking. Between the bus trip and an afternoon workshop offering, there was lunch back at the downtown church. I attended the media and storytelling option presented by the Executive Director of States at the Core, SATC, which exists to defend, build community, and dismantle and weaken authoritarianism. They've worked with organizers in each of the cities where ICE has been throwing its weight around. Firsthand, SATC knows the context we're dealing with, how we got here, and the other story being told by Miller, Bovino, Noem, and others. We learned the 5 elements of effective storytelling. Prepare ahead of time. Know your audience. Know how to introduce yourself. Be ready to share why you're compelled to speak out. Be you. We were shown how to stick to talking points and messaging frames, as well as practical tips to use. That Thursday evening, I went to the First Universalist Church in Minneapolis for a community dinner before returning to my sister's house. I ate there on Friday evening too, which was followed by a very healing prayer service. From my sister's living room, I tuned into Friday morning's online national prayer call for Minnesota. It was attended by nearly 1,000 clergy, and a total of over 2,500 people were on the call. Then I went downtown to the Target store on Nicollet Mall for a singing action by Voices at Noon, faith leaders in the store's atrium. During this collective witness, I noticed that the security guard who was tasked with telling us that we couldn't gather there, and then had to stand her ground since we weren't easily dissuaded from singing, looked really, really upset and uncomfortable while we were singing. Was it something to do with her conscience? I must say that I have especially appreciated the inclusion of singing as a form of nonviolent resistance. And it doesn't matter how well or how poorly we sing. It's all good. For a long time, it has been clear to me that I'm much more inclined to sing than to yell or shout at protests and demonstrations. I'm not at all enamored of the increasing use of expletives by either the masses or the people who hold the strings of power and the purse. When we finished singing inside the Target store atrium, we regathered for a short time outside on the street to sing a couple more songs. Then we dispersed and went to find the people marching from the initial gathering site to the Target arena. I was able to go inside the arena and wait for the rally. It still hadn't started when I decided I needed to head on over to First Universalist Church for the dinner and prayer service. I'm so glad I went to that and experienced its healing. I had no idea what lay ahead in the days to come, only that the same brutality would be turned on more places that my heart calls home, such as was already happening in the state of Maine. Sadly, it came even sooner and closer than that. On Saturday morning, While still at my sister's house before I headed to the airport to go home to Virginia, another peaceful observer was murdered by ICE. Alex Pretty was providing care and support to his neighbors. The part of town where he was killed was a place where my sister had formerly lived and where my family would often go to eat at a traditional German restaurant, the Black Forest Inn. My sister needed to watch the live feed and commentary as the news of this violence hit the media. That's not something that I would normally have chosen to do.